what is a class. For you to understand what a class is, you must understand what is an object and what is a variable. Let me give a simplified definition of those two. Everything is an object, and variables are labels on the objects. So objects can be anything as long as they contain some data. So let me give you an example. For instance, we take cities in Africa. Let's take Nairobi, let's take Lagos and Cairo. Those are objects. The reason why they are objects is they contain some data. Other examples of objects can be integers, strings, functions can also be objects, and many more. A variable then is a label on this object. So in our case, we have taken these three cities. Now we want to define a variable. So we want to place or to attach a label on this object. Let's take the word city. So the cities now is a variable that we are attaching to this object. If you understood that, you can now give a definition of a class. Simply, it is a template or a blueprint for creating objects. Let me give you a real life example. Say for instance, I want to generate my CV, that is a curriculum vitae. So I will find a CV template, meaning it already has the structure of a CV, but the only thing missing is my personal details that I have to fill in. Same case in Python, a class will help me create an object. So a class is the template for an object. Hope that's clear. Let's have the anatomy of a class. So the first bit is you need to define the class and the class name, as simple as that, then a colon. Number two, we need a constructor, and simply a constructor is a function for placeholders. Remember, we are creating a template, and a template needs placeholders, place where you can insert the values or all the data. In this case, we need a function, and specifically an init function or an initialization function. So recall how we define or we write functions. def, that is we are defining a function, then the function name and parentheses, and inside the parentheses we have the parameters, and inside those parentheses we have the parameter self. Remember, you're creating a code for an object that doesn't exist yet. Since the object doesn't have a name, the Python uses the word self as a placeholder or a separation tag. Okay. After self, we have other attributes that are going to be of that object. Secondly, under the same function, we need to define some variables. These variables are specifically called instance variables. Those that start with self. So we give the label self.name for the object name, self.country for the object country, self.population for the object population. We also need methods, and methods are simply functions in a class. The last step is now creating the object. Remember, what you have been doing is creating a template for an object. Now it's time we input the real data. So how do you do that? The first thing is we need to call the class. So the class name was, in our case, was city, and by calling the class, we also initialize the functions, okay, the constructors, and on the parentheses we now put the real data. And remember, all these we must store in what? In a variable, and that's